Joining us now, Washington, D.C., Dave Brat, Congressman, Republican, 7th District, Virginia, and he's drawn a field to compete with the 5 Democratic challengers, all going to be vying for the right to lose to Dave in a primary. I guess there must be something special about let's run against Dave Brat and lose. 5 women competing in a Democratic primary next year in order to lose to Dave Brat. Pretty funny, if you will, but must be kind of a high-profile situation. And joining us now live in D.C. where we are, Dave Brat. Congressman, good to have you with us, sir.
Hey, John, good. I take it you just saw the Washington Post hit piece that the Richmond Times-Dispatch felt the need to print this morning.
What was that about? Just share your perspective of that with our audience. I don't want to read it. I don't read stuff on air that much, but just go ahead and sum it up from Dr. Dave Brat's point of view.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the Washington Post. I mean, it's just fake news from beginning till end. And I think everybody's seeing through it now. The Democrats yesterday pivoted, right? They finally are acknowledging the Russia story and that stuff is fading, so they're going to try to do some economic policy. But Jenna Portnoy, she's been hitting me for 3 years solid. She didn't like me when I ran in the primary. She didn't like me when I ran last year. Just from beginning to end. Last week, the Washington Post said my competitors had the sparkles. They never noted that I had the sparkles, so I felt. I felt, almost that I needed a safe space or something because I didn't have a case of the sparkles. But their reporting is just so biased from beginning to end. And she started off with the 5 women, and what she forgets to include is the context on the Women's March, right? All those comments and the activists.
Right.
This week, people can go out to my Facebook, but the Women's March leaders defend a convicted cop killer, Asada Shakur, as a civil rights leader after they got a backlash. The web just lit up last week. And the Women's March leaders, people need to look at, these are not just, friendly Democrats. These are hard left. They're defending a cop murderer after the fact, won't back down on their messaging. And Jenna Portnoy can't do any reporting, right? Reporters they just do advertising for the Democrat Party. So this is the head of the Women's March, and this is the people they're defending on the hard left, and no reporting at all. Reporters, it's a sham, right? They don't do any reporting anymore. I had to tell them about Indivisible and the Resist movement right when it began. The reporters didn't have a clue what I was talking about. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, it's just more the same. So I think it is a joke, like you're saying. The average person, they want to know what we're going to do on the economy and health care and all the support stuff. And I don't think they're that concerned with all this media, fake news stuff.
Well, look, there has to be some badge of honor to, I guess, get the Democratic nomination in a 5-way or 6-way now primary. I think there's 6 people said they're going to run against you. I don't know who's filed. They haven't looked into it, but basically got 6 candidates out there raising money, all to gain the privilege of losing to you again in 2018. I mean, it's kind of funny, though. I mean, I know you're upset, like, when you read these articles, Congressman, but you almost have to look at this as...
No, I know. Right. Yeah, the reason I get upset, it's not about my race, it's about the country. I just get so upset with our culture is just shot right now. And these people in journalism, they're given a special right under our Constitution, under a free press, and they're supposed to be leaders in the search for truth. Mm-hmm. And so it's just disgusting what journalism has turned into. And that's the truly sad piece here, that people we hold up and give respect to are abusing their office and their calling in just narrow political terms. So that's the sad part. But yet you're on the political, most of it, I usually have a good laugh at most of this stuff. But some of these are just, so one-sided, it's ridiculous.
Well, look, Congressman Dave Brat, it's easier for me to say that because the attacks are not directed at me every day. So I can look at it and I can laugh it off and say, okay, so I guess there's some special place in progressive heaven for somebody that lost to Dave Brat for Congress, or maybe they get a medal or they get invited to some function in New York City. I really don't know what it is. But look, it's easier for us to say that. We're not on the receiving end of this. every day. So I kind of get that. Look, we got a lot to talk about today. And
Yep.
I'm going to be following, though, the Democratic race. And I'm going to call Ben up today, and we ought to have a debate and let them fight each other and then see who comes out of it. I think it's going to be interesting. But you're well positioned to get reelected, so I wouldn't be concerned about it. And look, they got to fire their bullets at somebody, right? Might as well be us. That's the way I look at it. Better us than
Yep.
someone else, because we can take it at the end of the day. And the reason they don't like you is because you actually stand for something. See, they don't have a problem with the Republicans in there that don't stand for anything. They just bash that. They sweep them out of the way. They're not concerned about them, because in one day, out the next, they'll be with them as soon as things get tough. They crumble. You, on the other hand, they know you're going to stand up to them, so you pose a threat to their intimidation structure. That's why they want you out, plain and simple, right?
Yep. No, I agree with you. They're deconstructing the 3 things I wrote about in my book, right? The Judeo-Christian tradition, the rule of law, and free markets. The hard left is deconstructing and trying to tear that apart, and that's the sad part for me. The political race, I know that doesn't concern me, but the country concerns me.
Mm-hmm. I hear what you're saying, and all you can do is keep fighting as you are. Let's get to the Senate vote today. Congressman, break this down for the average person going to work right now, trying to make ends meet, who is getting hosed by Obamacare, whose deductibles went through the roof. They don't even have viable insurance now, whose premiums went up. They're subsidizing other people. They voted for these Republicans who promised to repeal it, change it, get rid of it. Now we got to vote in the Senate. The only vote in the Senate today, what it's for, is simply to bring the bill in the House to the floor to debate it. Simply to debate repealing Obamacare. It's not even a vote on anything. It's simply to have the debate, and they don't have the votes right now to even debate it when these same people voted to repeal it multiple times. Explain that to the person driving to work today, right now, trying to get there by 9 a.m. to punch a clock. Explain what the hell is going on in there.
Yeah, well, it's pretty easy to explain. It's just politics over policy and over principle, right? These Senate moderates who are hiding under their desk, they all ran on repealing Obamacare and voted on it umpteen times, and that, except for with one exception. But at the end of the day now, this vote, they can get their way out of this vote, right? This is not a vote for Obamacare repeal or anything. It's just a procedural move so they can have a vote. So if they vote against this and there's no vote in the future, they just say, well, it never even came to us, right? So this is kind of the worst of the worst. And then if they pass this procedure to move to a vote, then they'll have a debate on the current Senate bill versus just a clean repeal bill, and then we'll replace it later over a 2-year period. And, you keep the status quo in place. And at the end of the day, I read an article yesterday, Mitch McConnell can be developing a third bill on the side, and he can just throw that in. If everything else fails, he can just throw in another bill that he writes up at the last minute, and that has happened before. But the one thing that people should know if they want to get in the weeds a little bit, go read an article by Avik Roy today. He's one of the healthcare experts up here, and he wrote a piece, The CBO has been hiding a key piece of information on the individual mandate, the part that makes you buy health care by law, which has always been thought to be unconstitutional. But that accounts for about 15 million of this 22 million people that will lose their health care. And the CBO has never reported that. It's been in the report, and they've held that tight. And so the CBO bias is showing through again, really political. This town is so crony and so full of the swamp. It's hard to believe. But after you account for that 15 million and then another 6 million because the CBO used the wrong baseline, Avik Roy concludes there's statistically white noise or no significant difference between the Obamacare plan and the Republican bill in terms of coverage. And it's not these 22 million people losing their coverage. So all these moderates, now they don't have the crutch to hang on. It's dead heat, and our bill is at least got a sliver of free market logic in it that may bring down prices in the future. And so we need to do more of that. But if people want to get into that's the guts of the substance of what's going on right now.
All right, so what happens today? Just walk us through this, because it's very confusing for the average person out there in the Senate. What the majority leader is trying to do is get the bill, or is he trying to get the House bill to the floor or the repeal bill to the – what is he trying to get to for debate?
The Senate right now, this is just a motion to proceed on bringing a bill up for a vote. So it can be any bill.
Any bill.
And that's why there's everybody's a little nervous, because they don't know which way that's going to go. So a few senators were on TV saying, we're going to vote for this thing, and I don't even know what bill is going to turn up after I open the gate to have a vote on a repeal of Obamacare. We're not sure what bill is going to show up. And so this thing just opens the gate, and that opens the gate for a couple of weeks of exploring what bill they want to go with.
Right, but then they're free to vote no on the bill.
Right, that's right. That's right,
so,
but they don't want to be in that spot, because if they vote against a health care repeal, then their constituents are going to go, what?
Unbelievable.
You told me for 7 years you were for this, and now you're not for it. What's going on?
Unbelievable.
Right.
I mean, I want everybody to grasp this. This is just like, Dave, Brat, this is just like authorization for military force. Same thing. It's the same thing. They don't want to bring it up because they don't want to go on the record. They'd rather hide behind mama's apron and not hit a button so they can't be held accountable for it, which is their damn job. So basically, anybody that would vote today know that not to have the debate on the floor to figure out what bill they may or may not vote on, because the vote is non-binding. It's just simply to move forward with a solution.
Yep.
They would rather vote no and say, well, I can vote no because I don't know what I'm voting for. I can't vote for something I don't know what I'm voting for. Hey, it's like when Nancy Pelosi said, you got to read it, see what's in it, so they could justify that. I don't know what I'm voting for. I can't be voting for something. I don't know. Who would do that? Nobody does that, blah, blah, blah. So that's what you're going to get. That's what they'll say. But the real reason is, if they vote to go forward with a potential solution and there is a bill of repeal and replace, then they're going to have to go on the record in voting yes or no. And if they vote no, after they voted multiple times the other way, they're going to have to explain that. So to get out of that situation and to just continue on with Obamacare as it is, they vote no today so it doesn't come up for discussion. Is that what the people sent you guys in there to do?
No, I mean, that's going to be the fury when the Republican voters finally figure out, right, and part of this is the problem, is the mainstream media won't cover the news, but when they figure out what's happening, what the final result is here, they're going to be infuriated, because the news is reporting, this 22 million uncovered, and I've gone over that statistic, but the reality is what the journalists won't do is call the first 10 people small business folks in the yellow pages, and they'll get an earful, right, from these people that can't hire new people because Obamacare has just ruined the healthcare insurance field, and they can't hire employees who they consider part of their family and give them full benefits like they used to. And so that's the true story. The hardworking men and women out there, they go to work, set the alarm, get up early to feed their kids and do the best they can, and then you start a small business and go through that headache. And now you can't hire anybody because healthcare has just run amok. And those people are so ticked off, they're about ready to leave politics, and they can't. Those are the American dream, folks, we need to have in the Republican Party. And so I urge everybody out there to get involved. Don't duck out. You got to stay involved and get involved in politics to fix this thing.
It's really unbelievable. This vote is going to happen sometime today, as I understand it. Congressman? Yep. All right. Congressman, let's change gears. Let's go to Afghanistan. The general, this reported today, the general in charge of U.S. forces in Afghanistan appeared to confirm yesterday that Russia allegedly is sending weapons to the Taliban. Now, Mattis wants to send 5,000 troops to Afghanistan. Now we find out that the Russians are arming the Taliban in order to do, I don't know what, I guess, overthrow the Afghan government that the Soviets couldn't overthrow. And then the Soviets were beaten by the Taliban with our help, and now they're going to arm the Taliban, and it's on their border. Dave, Brat, tell us why we're still there, please.
Yeah, that's a tough one. A few of my colleagues have been pleading to do a new AUMF, authorization for use of force, to define exactly why are we there. And so many in Congress want to get rid of active fighting troops at a minimum, right? We don't want to be sending more troops until we have a mission in Afghanistan. And, this is also made more complex by the Syria, situation right next door. But in Afghanistan, I think the reason we are there is to at least avoid a vacuum, right? So, but that's different, very different than nation building. And there's a new machine out, War Machine, that shows the complexity of nation building. And so that, I think there's going to be a debate about how active should we be, and this Russian piece totally complicates that. And they're fighting against ISIS in Syria, taking up some of the heavy lifting there. But none of this has been accurately reported. And so the American people, they deserve a full account of what our strategy is in Syria and Afghanistan, because our young men and women are going and putting their lives on the line. And we deserve a strategy.
All right. I'm out of time. Congressman,
good for you.
Thanks for being with us. And we're going to get together this week. I'll be up here for 2 weeks and follow up on what is going on today. Thanks for that insight.
Awesome.
As always.
Thank you, John.
More information, DaveBrat.com. Can't get easier than that.